Bledsoe was arrested.
Patrick Montgomery was in court.
Jonathan Manapa will stay in federal custody.
No, I don't take responsibility at all.
Hey everyone, welcome to the show. So 38-year-old Indiana resident Jessica Reyher traveled to D.C. with her husband. Her husband's name is Arthur. The two of them walked to the Capitol after Donald Trump's speech, and after the police lines fell, Reyher and her husband followed the mob to the Lower West Terrace. They were seen entering the tunnel where so much of that egregious violence took place on January 6th. And as the Reyhers entered, they joined in chants of USA, whose house, our house. And then Reyher and her husband were seen pushing through the crowd. They made it to the front of the mob. They were facing off with the police, and they refused repeated orders by the officers to back up. Eventually, the police deployed some pepper spray into the crowd. So a bunch of people left the tunnel at that point, but the Reyhers did not. They remained in the tunnel. Reyher was standing behind her husband. He was face to face with officers, and he started pushing his body into the police line. This was over a sustained period of time. Sometime after that, the mob started to do their heave-ho push against the police that we all have seen on video. You know, they were rocking back and forth in unison, pushing and yelling heave-ho. Well, during these heave-ho pushes, Reyher and her husband were still at the front of the mob. They took part in all of it. And after some time on the front line, Reyher and her husband finally exited the tunnel. However, they remained just outside of the tunnel for a few minutes, and then they entered a second time. So once again, they maneuvered toward the front of the crowd. They weren't at the front of the police line this time, but they got as close as they could. And then they took part again in the collective heave-ho push against the police. Then Reyher and her spouse exited again. So this was the second time they left. They remained again in the area right outside of the tunnel. And Reyher's husband was seen and heard on video. He was encouraging others to join in this fight in the tunnel. So a few minutes later, a man came out of the tunnel. He was yelling to everybody that, oh, we've almost gotten through, we're close. And then he looked at the Reyhers and he asked, are you going in or not? And so Reyher and her husband rushed back into the tunnel. This is their third time in. They again took part in that collective push against the police. After a while, they exited the tunnel a third time. Then they re-entered. They went in a fourth time, took part in more pushes against the police, and then they exited once again. Now, to their credit, while they were outside the tunnel, Reyher's husband tried to protect Officer Michael Fanone as he was being just brutally assaulted and tasered. He tried to get Michael Fanone back to, or he did help to get Officer Fanone back to the police line, and he held up his arm to block another person who was trying to assault him. Short time after that, though, Reyher was seen again, still encouraging people, but then after a while, they did leave the area. So in speaking with the FBI, Reyher admitted to witnessing a ton of violence against the police. She admitted that she saw Officer Fanone being dragged into the mob. She told the agents that she heard the mob suggesting that they hold Officer Fanone hostage, and that she also heard the mob saying to use his own gun against him. And Reyher said she regrets being a part of the Capitol attack, and she said that emotions were running high. She wanted her voice to be heard that day. So Reyher was arrested on March 8th of 2023, and she was charged with civil disorder, entering a restricted building or grounds, disorderly conduct on restricted grounds, 2 counts of physical violence, and impeding passage on Capitol grounds. In November of 2023, Reyher pleaded guilty to the felony charge of civil disorder. So she faced up to 5 years in prison, 3 years of probation, and $250,000 in fines. However, the prosecutor requested only 9 months in prison, 3 years of probation, and $2,000 in restitution. U.S. District Judge Reggie Walton presided over Reyher's case, and when all was said and done, Reyher was sentenced to only 90 days in prison, 3 years of probation, and $2,000 in restitution. Judge Walton is pretty tough, so I'm surprised he didn't give her more time behind bars. You know, Considering she didn't make physical contact with the police, though, I think it's comparatively a strong sentence if you look at other cases. Most other judges would have given less time. Most other judges would have probably just given her probation or maybe 30 days. So again, comparatively, it's tough. Compared to what this particular judge usually gives, it's pretty weak. So make of that what you will. I will let you know if I hear any more, but yeah, for a felony, not good. But as I mentioned with her husband's case the other day, at least she is not going to be able to vote. She'll be out in time for the election, but she will not be able to cast a ballot. All right, I'll let you know if I hear any more. Thank you all so much for watching and listening. Please like this video, share it, become a subscriber, become a donor if you can, or leave a tip or a super thanks. Love you all. Take care. Talk with you soon.